there! I'm Squire Callahan Ridgeborn, almost a Battlemaster, always a wizard, and tonight I'm joined by Coltrane Lionheart, a Paragon Paladin from the Rising Winds. Coltrane, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on, and we're going to talk about some Paladin stuff today. Before we get into Paladin specifically, I want to know, how did you get started in Amtgard?
I started back in 2011. The first time I ever heard or even seen any of this kind of stuff was at an anime event. I believe it was called like Sleeping Samurai or something like that.
Okay.
At the time frame, I was still in Texas. I was still in the Army, stationed at Fort Hood. And me and my friends would go to anime conventions, and we saw they had like a little area where they had like, you had to pay to get in to do some fighting or whatever. And I thought it was like the coolest thing ever because I did a lot of martial arts growing up and did kendo. And I thought it was cool that, you can let anybody in and hit each other with swords. So that was like in 2011. And then I want to say months and months later, I was walking through a park with my girlfriend, and we saw a bunch of people swinging foam swords again. And I was like, well, what is this? And it was HFS. So for people who don't know, HFS is the high fantasy.
Okay.
It's sort of like a break off from Amtgard V6. It plays a lot like Amtgard V6, V7, except for each park itself. Each chapter is allowed to kind of change the rules how they want. So I started off in that. So it's a lot like Amtgard. And then I learned about Amtgard from there and started playing around that same time.
That's pretty cool. What is your favorite kind of battle game?
Bridge battles. Those are my favorite. Like any type of battle game where there's a clear objective, but really clear funnels of combat. Those are always my favorite.
Okay, I can see that. So let's get to the meat of the matter. What made you start Paladin?
I really started because I love the idea of combat healer. Anytime I played D&D, anytime I played Pathfinder, anything like that, any fantasy thing I normally play, Skyrim, whatever, I'm usually a combat healer. I love the idea of a person who has some armor, some aspects of a warrior, but also has that healing component that, you're not as squishy as a healer, but you're not as tanky as a warrior. Always love that.
What made you really stick with the Paladin class long term? Like, what abilities really drew you to staying with the class long enough to become a Paragon Paladin?
As a person with, I would say, above average stick, I loved playing healer, playing sword and board healer. And then when Paladin opened up, I loved the aspect of I'm using a lot of the same spells. So I'm still using Greater Heal. I'm still using Greater Red. I'm still using a verbal to try to keep people away. Now it's all instead of whole person or entangle ball. But just that notion of I can still fight. I can still keep people alive and still kind of play toward that front line a lot better than when I was playing a healer.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what makes Paladin stand out and be unique on an Amtgard field?
It is one of the best healers in the game, in my opinion. It is less about the volume of healing compared to playing a mainline like healer class. It's less volume, but it is more impactful, if you can understand what I mean. So as a paladin, I feel one of his biggest roles is to sustain the front line, not just be at the front line and do the fighting, but sustain the front line and be a huge part of protecting your back line. Because Paladin isn't as tanky as a warrior, you still get some of the benefits of being up there, especially with these new archetypes, and you still get your ability to heal and help your healer and other healers on your team to really stay.
So being a Paladin allows you to be the most front-wise healer, and that gets you around some of the squishiness of the other classes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And Paladin really does feel like it's always on that cutting edge, that front line, at least in our most recent Kingdom battlefields. Like that seems to be where it I
believe so.
I soft feel like Paladin would make an amazing skirmisher.
With this new archetype, I think so too. So the new archetype was it Inquisitor, the one with
with Sacred Blade.
Yeah, with Sacred Blade. I haven't got to play test it too much, but I see what you're saying. I believe it could be a great skirmisher because you, with that blade, you can deal with so much more, around your backline and keeping things away from your backline
Mhm.
and don't really have to deal with your front line as much. Yeah, I think it could be really, really helpful.
And it feels like because the Sacred Blade archetype, I mean, you lose Greater Resurrect and you lose Awe, which that's a bummer of a pile of things to lose. But you can still wear your 4 points. You get the Sacred Blades, which is just Phase Blade with more steps, and then you like your Avatar of Nature druids that are around those corners. You can easily stop them from getting in. You
They're
can,
done.
yeah, you can get past the wizard with their armor, their magic armor. The assassins, they're worried about you because you're already immune to everything they've got. Like, it seems like you could. Are you a big football guy at all?
A little bit.
I'm not a huge football person, but I played back in high school, and I feel like you've got the line of scrimmage, and the paladin could very well either be like right in the center or on the right on the edges, keeping the flank or applying that inward pressure on defense. I can see that being a really good opportunity for that Sacred Blades. I'm excited to see that happening more at Kingdom.
I really feel that Paladin is one of the most versatile classes in the game. It can really mold around the way that you like to play,
Mhm.
as long as you have a certain level of stick to it. Like I really feel like you're saying that if you are working with your sacred blade correctly, you're picking the correct targets, you're really focusing on what you need to be doing.
Mhm.
I feel like it can be great for skirmishing. I feel like paladin can be great front, even still taking that same archetype and on the front line, just knocking
Mm.
through any type of magic armor with a pole, with shoot sword and board, anything like that.
Oh
I feel
yeah.
like Paladin itself can work in so many different ways and around the ways that people like to play.
I hadn't even thought about putting Sacred Blades on a polearm. That's a nasty. I really like that idea because you get your weapon becomes hardened, which is already a huge boost because it prevents the arrow breakage problem with the polearms, and then you ignore magic armor and resistances that prevent wounds. That might be the
Yep.
sleeper tech that because I've been thinking about like when they say blades, I'm thinking like flow paladin sounds pretty cool, but I can see that.
So the way I normally use Sacred Blade is with the pulse. Before playing standard Paladin, for the last couple years, if I go out there with the pole, I am right behind that front line. So I'm like, if the warriors are front line, I am like right behind them with
Mhm.
the pole. My job was to pick off, and I still have that immune to command, immune to death, probably have the pro mage on, and I'm just getting the kills that way. I've noticed that Sacred Blade and playing that way has been so much better because any spellcasters that are even coming close to that front line, they only feel comfortable coming to that front line because they have a blessing against wounds or some magic armor or something like that.
Right.
And they're usually not expecting that pole to come through the middle and just right to the torso.
Yeah, that I've been that caster. I can see that being very effective. So, which paladin ability do you like the best?
Heal. I feel even though you only get one per life,
Mhm.
the fact that it's rechargeable has been great. It gives you that little bit of downtime,
Mhm.
so it doesn't make it feel too overpowered. Just the fact that I have 4 points of armor, so just that one above three keeps you from that whole breaking issue. 4 points of armor. Honestly, I don't even really take a large shield. I normally take a medium. But having that protection, shield protection, sustainability a little bit, and the fact that I can just heal, sit here and recharge and heal. It's not some little heal, it's a pretty quick heal, even though
Mhm.
the new heal spell has gotten faster, but it's still a relatively fast, quick heal right in the front line. Just for the fact that you have so much protection on, it keeps people from wanting to rush you in the first place compared to
Mm.
being a healer and they start trying to heal. So I think just the fact that Paladin has such a kit on them and having greater heal, that right there is the two best things. Everything else is great. I love having all. Don't take away all, please. Like greater res, hey, it's great. You only get one per life. My immune shield or my pro mage, that's great and all, but the whole kit, in my opinion, revolves around I have all this on and I can heal. I can charge it again, heal again, and my warriors, my other frontliners, or I can greater heal my healers or the people that really are keeping people alive behind me back up and moving.
Paladin ability do you like the least?
I say, well, I like the least about Paladin is Javelin, but that's not an ability. Javelin's just kind of.
Javelins are so bad. You can't make them work.
Javelin, I have just in my bag right now, I have every type of javelin. I
Mm-hmm.
have minimum javelin, I got max length javelin, I got in between, I got every type of javelin. I got the ones with the fins, everything else. And even having a 6 foot javelin and I'm kind of using it as a spear, then I can throw it. It doesn't it's not that good. But spell wise, the thing I use the least as a paladin is extend immunity.
Okay.
I know, like for some people that sounds blasphemous, but extend immunity, granted, is the rising winds. Every culture is a little different of what we normally see on the field, but at least in our area, on this region, we have so much immune to command. We have so many things in the game that are immune to command. The only time I actually ever put extend immunity on someone is a warrior. And honestly, they're going to get dispelled anyway. So I barely even give out the extend immunity. And it's charge time 5. So even if I give it out, then I have to recharge it, and that's taking up my time just for
Right.
what it, to give someone pro def. It's not. I don't find it. I personally don't find it very useful at all.
Okay. I feel like the extend immunity becomes a lot more useful in an absence of lycanthropy. You know?
Um. Yeah, I can see that.
Like my personal play
It's
style, when I'm playing wizard, I really like having a variety of different enchantments, but I usually leave the lycanthropy to other people. So grabbing an extend immunities from a paladin can be really clutch to give me that just a little extra there.
yeah,
But I can see where your point is, where most people prefer to get that command immunity from somewhere else, and the death immunity has limited usefulness because I don't see honestly that much finger of death on our fields anymore.
yeah. I haven't seen much of it.
We tend here in the Rising Winds to like longer battle games, and I think that's why we don't see very much finger of death because it's very effective in removing a player, but your spell points to affect ratio with a long like an hour long battle game, I don't think you get the value out of it as much.
Yeah, so when I started off in V7
Mm-hmm.
where lives matter a whole lot more.
Mm,
Especially starting off at HFS because like depending on the race that you play, depending on the class that you play, you had a certain amount of lives. So when we switched over to 8, started to really notice that per life, like a person being alive on the field doesn't matter as much as wasting that person's time. So taking stuff like Finger of Death, I honestly don't take stun very often when I'm a healer
mm-hmm.
because it's so expensive for me to kill a person
Yeah,
when I can take a ice ball, I can take, or just as a paladin using awe. It is almost more important for me to use awe and keep you away and waste your time away from the objective than it is for me to kill you and then you get all of your stuff back or whatever, right?
yeah. There's over prevalence of resurrect on the field, like, and that's a
Yep.
hot take for sure. But like, I soft think that the amount of resurrect on the field is actually buffing crowd control because it is objectively better to freeze somebody than to kill them. Because if
Yep.
you if
It's
you
100% more important to waste someone's time.
mhm,
To hit a person with a ice ball for 60 seconds, it is way more important to actually just kill them and then they have to walk back and come back in 30 seconds or whatever. Because if I waste your time for 60 seconds, I am wasting someone else's time. So if that person's frozen,
mhm,
I'm wasting someone else's time that they may have to come over and release. I'm wasting that person's spell. I'm wasting that person's attention
mhm.
that they have to worry about. This person's frozen. I need to go help them. If they get frozen, they get unfrozen. There's still that potential to be refrozen again. You
Right.
can waste someone's time way more like wasting so much time is way more impactful than actually killing them. And I mean, like, even with like Ice Ball compared to just murdering a person, like you said, there's Raise Dead, there's Resurrect, there's Greater. There's a lot of ways to get someone back up and get them back up and kind of better than it is to like play around with wasting their time.
Well, and if you kill a player and they go all the way back and they respawn, they get all their per lives back, they get all their armor back, all their weapons are fixed. So there's
Yep.
a perk to respawning that is sort of a natural catch-up feature. Whereas if I just waste a bunch of your time, then you have actually lost a resource at that point instead of gaining back more resource. And I
Yep.
almost wonder. I was talking to I don't remember who I was talking. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was theory crafting on like hot patching cursed to make cursed more relevant. And how would you feel if Paladin lost Greater Resurrect, and in its place it got normal Resurrect recharge times 5 at the same frequency? Because then it would make cursed slightly better.
Yes, I can see that being a possibility. The one big thing that attracted me to Paladin was the fact that Greater Heal than Heal. Greater Resurrect was so much shorter than Resurrect. It's so much faster in that kind of, because like I said, time is so much more viable than
Oh, absolutely.
someone being alive and all that. So, yeah, I can see I can see Greater Res being taken, give them a normal res, or honestly give them Raise Dead.
I'm
I
also
can see
advocating
something
to
like that.
change
Maybe.
the res incant to make it match the heal incant with the
Yeah.
just the white light of healing if resurrected the 5 times. That
Oh, we have come a long way with the with the heal spell and the res spell, because it used to be so long back in 7, and I'm glad that we've been making it shorter and shorter and shorter. Because I mean, like I said, I've been playing since what 2011. It's been like I understand how it felt to be new, and all those spells being so hard to remember and so hard, and I don't want new people to have to go through all that again, you know?
right. Well, it also leads to this weird moment of like somebody rolls up on their very first day and you're like, "Oh yeah, what do you think you want to do?" And they're like, "You know what? I love playing support classes. Can I be a healer? Can I heal people?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure. Memorize this 9 paragraph poem real quick and you can heal." Versus a one sentence repeated 5 times. You can write that on a piece of paper and give it to them and they can have a shot, you know? Like
Yep.
it
So when I first started, I wanted to be a healer, but at the time frame V7, it was set up to only certain amount of people per team can be a class. So you can only have one healer per 5 people on a team. It's something along those lines. I don't remember. But I was literally in that situation. I started off gun ho of like, man, I love being a healer. Let me let me be a healer with a sword and let me go out there. Then they said you got to remember this whole giant paragraph, and I couldn't get it right for like a good year, and it's just like, you know what, I guess I'm gonna go over to be a healer. I mean, a healer, go over to be a warrior and just learn how to fight first, and then go over to healer, and once I understand the game better.
which was a bummer because you didn't need that time as a warrior when you really wanted to play a healer. Like you could have understood the game fine, just memorizing poetry, who's got the time?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I digress. Let's circle back around. I want to know, when are you using your capstone ability, that protection from magic that you get twice per refresh? Are you using that on yourself? Are you using that on others? What are you doing with it?
I always use it on myself.
Okay.
So my logic, my idea of tactic, I personally usually play a more frontline paladin. My job, most of the time, my job is to be in the front line. Warrior, once the warrior starts eating up a whole lot of spells, because that's the life of a warrior. So once they start eating up all of these spells, my job is to either try to keep them alive, or my job is to use that pro magic and buy them more time to get out of or be able to recover from whatever craziness that they're getting hit with. So a lot of the times I am a weaker warrior, and I'm warriors backup replacement in a pinch. And during those times is when I use a pro mag. Very, very, very rarely will I come out of a respawn and just throw on the pro mag. Usually it is like mid fight. The other team thinks they understand what's going on here. They start their push, start killing off our front line, and then I use a pro mag, and then I keep the sustainability that we can try to rally back.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you're using it as a activate, like an emergency button.
Yeah, like the way that rage is supposed to be for barbarian,
Mm-hmm.
but really isn't. But yeah, it's kind of like that.
Okay, I can see that. So we already talked about this
Yeah.
a little bit, but tell me about your weapon styles as you're playing Paladin. What does your standard kit look like?
A standard kit for park level would just be a medium shield and a max short. That's what I normally would use just for like park. But if it's kingdom wise, like a larger battle, it's bridge wards, it's keep on the borderlands, something like that. I will take a a medium shield. I will take a backup tower shield. I will always take the pole with me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I will take two swords, two short swords. The reason for it is in a larger battle, kingdom wise, you have way more people on the field. My role is way more flexible than say a warrior's role or a barbarian. So if I'm going up to the line, if I'm going up to the line and I'm seeing that we have more than enough frontline fighters, I will switch to the pole, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll stay behind them. I'll try to pick off some shots. If it's standard paladin, depending on situation, I'll wait and see if I need to use a pro mag. I'll usually use an all to keep off some sort of catcher so we can keep momentum moving. But the fact that I can switch from that and then say one or two of the frontline fighters go down, I can switch back to sword and shield and kind of pick up where they left off at, wait for them to respawn, and they can get back in their line. But yeah, in a large battle, I'll pick up all that. And then now with that whole Inquisitor new archetype, I've been seeing myself picking up the pole a little bit more so I can kind of stay there, res a warrior or whatever in the front, heal. I got enough time to recharge my heal and still use that Sacred Blade and, hit. But if I'm using Sacred Blade, then I don't have res, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. Does Paladin get any strange rules interaction?
The usual one is someone uses steal life on you, but
Mm.
you're immune to death, so they kind of get like a free steal life without it being an issue.
Well, the steel light just
But
fails at that point.
it,
I've
I don't
I've made this
think
mistake
of.
before. The steel life is death school, so the ability is expended, but they don't gain any benefit.
Oh, really?
That's why it's even more funny.
It's any small interaction. I mean, I've noticed that Sacred Blade has been confusing to some people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think there's a lot of people who are very used to their lycanthropy and they're going out there and then a paladin runs up on them and hits them in the chest and then they're like, no, but that has been interesting lately. A lot of times, a lot of casters, like you should, you give your wizards a little bit of armor, and I've noticed that a lot where a wizard or two, they will stand there, think that they're safe, and then get hit with it, and then have to be kind of informed afterwards. But that's a new spell issue, not
Yeah.
necessarily a huge rule weird issue.
I think that'll even out over time. So I want to talk about teamwork for a minute here. What is the best way another class can support a paladin player?
So paladin's biggest issue is sustainability for themselves. So warrior is capable of sustaining themselves by getting a kill, they get some armor back, right? A barbarian sustains himself by getting a kill, they get a blessing against wounds. As a paladin, if I lose armor, I naturally can't get it back myself. I can get back a greater heal, can recharge that. I can recharge extend immunity, but I don't really use it often, honestly. I can recharge Sacred Blade? No, hold up.
Blades, I believe, is still 1 per life, and there's not a recharge on it. I can double check that. Yeah, Sacred Blade's 1 per life, and it's an EX champ.
There's a third one you can charge.
On the Guardian, you get Martyr, 2 per life, recharge times 3.
That's what it is.
Yep.
All right. So as a paladin, one of our biggest issues is sustainability. So other classes are able to get. So warrior is able to get back armor. They get a kill. A barbarian can sustain himself by getting a kill and getting a blessing against wounds. But as a paladin, if I lose armor, there's no way for me to naturally get it back from me.
Right.
There's only 3 things I can actually charge. I can only charge greater heal. I can charge extend immunity. I can charge martyr. Everything else is gone after I use it. Oh, I love greater resurrect. Only get once.
Mm-hmm.
I love awe. Only get it twice. If I'm guardian and my shield gets dispelled, if only get 2 pro mag that gets dispelled, I don't have much sustainability when the fight keeps.
Right.
So like if the fight keeps going, I start to lose more and more armor. I can't get it back. It's taking me longer to heal because I need to heal, then I need to charge it, I need to heal, I need to charge it. But then I start losing all my other stuff. Like to me, Paladin gets so much harder when I'm just out of alls.
Right.
And that kind of goes back into that whole conversation about, is it more important to waste someone's time or is it more important to kill them? The worst thing you can do to a paladin is waste their time.
Mm-hmm.
To kill a paladin, you're almost helping them by killing them.
They get their arms back.
I get my armor, I get all of my stuff back. I basically get to start off from scratch as a paladin. But if I'm out there and I have Sacred Blade and I have used up my heal, and I've gotten a hit on 2 hits on the leg and 1 on my chest and da 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 da. It's gonna take so much work to get me back to fighting, full strength. So like to waste a paladin's time and getting ice balled, and then I'm waiting, and then I'm using someone else's resources to try to get me released, and now they got to get up to the front line, and they could get themselves killed, and all that. It's so bad to waste a paladin. It's so bad for a paladin to not die and just have their time and their armor just chipped away at. It's terrible.
Are there any enchantments that paladins should be on the lookout for? Like something that they want?
Confidence is always good. Phase blade. Let's see.
So is Paladin pretty self-contained then? It just wants to respawn?
Yeah, honestly, like for me, of course, I would love to get a pro match, so I'm not using up one of mine, or a lightened soul, so I'm not using up, my own. It's more of I would love to get enchantments from other people that give me more sustainability, right? Like if you give me a pro match, I don't have to use my pro match. That allows me to continue to fight a little longer, right? Because if I get 2 of my pro match dispelled, that's basically it for the game, right? So it's more of that. Like if someone else can supplement the things that I need. Honestly, the biggest thing I'm usually looking for out on the field is mid. I mean, it doesn't sound crazy, it doesn't sound like the big, but men, because I'm deliberately, because I have 4 points everywhere, I'm deliberately hitting, taking that first crushing breaking hit. I'm deliberately taking that first arrow. I'm deliberately taking, I'm taking certain hits. Strategic, like I said before, there's no way for me to get any of this kind of stuff back that I'm going to need.
Okay. Does Paladin have any major weaknesses?
I would have said Ice Ball and Entangle until Guardian. The biggest way that, at least for me, being more up in the front line, the biggest things that killed me was wasting my time with being frozen, ice balls, that kind of stuff. Just my shield getting hit and my armor getting hit with stuff that's going to stop me from keeping pace. But now that we have Guardian, it's been amazing. So now it's really been the warrior's best friend, because what's the biggest thing that kills warriors or wastes warriors' time is any type of spell ball being, unless they're going out there without a shield and they're taking it with their AA and magically they don't get dispelled, you know, I as a paladin can finally start blocking those off. But yeah, the biggest weakness was spell balls. Now, I guess maybe Icy Blast. I don't.
Okay.
Paladin's pretty good. Not gonna lie.
It's got a lot of answers right now, and not a lot of questions remain.
Especially like the qualifier of you basically got to play for a year before you can even really play Paladin.
Yeah.
So that already meets that qualification of like, well, you kind of understand the game enough, and you kind of understand where you need to be before you even play the class. So it really just kind of snowballs into you getting better and better and better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I soft expect that to go away in the not so distant future. I think that we're gonna see that get opened up to everybody for both anti-paladin and paladin.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, levels aren't real. I believe that there shouldn't be a leveling up system. I understand why it is there, you know, to try to ease somebody into the game. But in my experience, mostly what I've seen is a new person comes in, they're at level 1, and they're frustrated that ultimately they have to learn the rest of the game because they can still be hit with the rest of the game.
Right.
They just can't use the rest of the game. So like kind of going back to a sports analogy, it's like, hey, you're going to play basketball. You're going to hop in, play a pickup game against people who've played for 30 years and some people who are new, but you can't shoot. But don't get me wrong, you still got to defend against them. You still got to learn how to do this and this, but just can't do, you know, it's kind of more on that. So it's just like, just go ahead and open it up for everyone. It makes it easier to balance. I mean, usually at kingdom level, everyone's at level 6, you know, to balance it out anyway. So yeah, I think that restriction is going to go away soon also.
I've long advocated for either a single level where you level one time from 1 to 6 and then you're good to go for all the classes, or letting people test out of things. Like, I've been playing since 2017. I know what warrior does, right? Like, I haven't played warrior. I haven't gotten credits in warrior, but if I wanted to put on a purple sash, it's got less than 10 abilities and I'm used to juggling 30, right? If you've
Yep.
played any caster class and you switch to a martial class, you feel like claustrophobic with how little that you actually have going on. And even if you go from a martial class to a caster class, it's not that big of a jump to figure out what's going on there, because you don't actually buy 30 different abilities. It really does feel kind of silly, and like we need to move on from it. But
Yeah, there's a lot of little hanger-ons. Like I said, I mean, for playing for so long, I have noticed that there's some things that are cultural that kind of still linger, and then there's still some stuff from like V6 and V7 that are still lingering around in V8 that's kind of causing issues.
right.
Like I said, like things like leveling, that stuff is honestly kind of out of date for what we're doing. You know, like the idea of each type of class has certain amount of lives that went, and we all understand that that's fine, right?
Yeah, it's
Like
more
most
fun
people
to
who
get
play
it
Amtgard
in hand.
now.
Yeah.
So like most people who play Amtgard now have played in V8,
Mhm.
and to go to them and be like, "Hey, you're playing a warrior today. You only have 5 lives, and when you die 5 times, you have to go sit down. Hey, this person gets 3 lives," and like we understand that like that whole system isn't really all that fun, and I feel like there's a bunch of small things in the game that we're slowly getting rid of. Um, I believe like the latest update had been, hey, you can finally recharge up to your max,
Yeah.
right? Like you can recharge up to the max of it. There's no more of I use 7 of them. I got down to 1. I used it, and I charge it back up to 1. We understand that's old. That's antiquated. There's no need for that anymore. Let's just say you can read. If you want to stand here for 20 minutes and recharge all 90 icy blasts that you have, go for it. I feel like we're slowly finally getting away from a lot of these V7 issues, but we still got some work to go.
I'd agree with that. All right. Talk to me about how Paladin plays differently on a kingdom field versus a local, like a park field.
Paladin at park can be really good, but it can have a lot of issues. So, Paladin itself isn't your main front. I'm sure other people's talked about this before, about like in other video games where there's a tank and there's an off tank. So, tank being like your main frontline fighter that has a whole lot of armor, a lot of health, and then your off tank is someone that usually has less, but their main job isn't to be the front. So park wise, what happens a lot of times is they say, hey, you're playing Paladin, you're wearing 4 points of armor. Most people here don't have armor at all. That means that you are the frontline fighter.
You become the tank.
But yeah, you become the tank, and kind of want to remove himself from that tank role because it's not really working. And then he kind of want to just help the backline people. Or now we got Sacred Blade. I know park level wise, I'm probably going to be doing way more flanking if I don't have someone else who is the real tank on the team.
Okay.
So kingdom level, I feel Paladin is amazing at kingdom level because you will have a tank there. You will have that frontline fighter. You will have not just one person, but more than likely like 2 or 3 people who are that front line for you. And that's where Paladin really shines, at the fact that I got 4 points of armor. I can be up here with you and heal. I can be up here with you and soak up spell balls with immune shield. I can be up here with you and pop pro match and fight off whatever spellcasters are up here while waiting for the real frontline fighters to get back. I love Paladin kingdom level wise. Paladin park level wise, it feels a little cramped. It feels like you're kind of shoving yourself into a role as a frontline fighter a lot of times that isn't really the real point of the class, in my opinion.
Okay. If I wanted to play Paladin, what do you think the minimum equipment I would require?
Minimum equipment, I would say 1 point of armor, head to toe, and sword. So I say at least 1 point, because you can sew, or ask your local garber to sew together just fabric pants, fabric gambeson. Super easy. And the reason for head to toe is you are going to diversify where you're being. So a lot of times people think of 1 point of armor, oh, that's not a lot. 1 point of armor is still 5 points of armor, because that is 1 per limb, right? So if you're really working it correctly, that's left arm, left leg, right leg, torso, and then I can hopefully get a mend back or something. But I feel like that's like the minimum if you want to play Paladin, because you're gonna have to kind of be up there in the uncomfortable places that your healer can't go to, right? If you're playing Paladin and you're not wearing the armor and you're just going out there, at that point you can be a healer and take similar stuff and more, right? And have a sword and a shield go out there. So like as a healer, I can take sword and shield. I can have way more greater heals. I can have not just extend immunity. I can give blessings of I can give all different types of blessings to people. They don't have all, but they have hold person, and they have astral intervention. They have other command spells that Paladin wouldn't even have, right? They can't put pro mage on themselves, but I can give out pro mage and everything else to other people. So it's, without the armor as a paladin, you're just a low level healer with immune to command and death. You know what I mean?
Yeah. feels bad to not have the armor because that's sort of the point.
Yep.
And I feel like the balance of the game really is built around everyone having their armor. If you don't, you're missing out on a big chunk.
Yep.
I want to talk about your armor for a minute. I see that you're wearing some for us today. Tell me, where are you getting your 4 points from? Are you doing the lamellar on your arms and stuff? What does that look like?
So what I'm wearing today is a gambeson.
Mhm.
So it's just a 1 point gambeson, not crazy thick. And then I am wearing fluted aluminum. So I could lean in just a little bit more. So it is lamellar pieces,
Mhm.
and that little crease in between these are the little flutings, and that gives you a point back for it being lower. But actually, there have been armor changes, so I'm not entirely sure
They got rid of the
if
negative
it is
modifier.
higher
Aluminum's just
than it used
normal
to be.
now.
Oh yeah,
That might be
so
higher. I could check for you real fast. Let me see here. I look up. Now I'm curious. Let's see.
yeah, I want to say if it being aluminum, it's more points than it used to be.
Lamellar is
Either way,
base
it
6.
gets more.
Is it at least 18 gauge?
Yep.
Okay. And yeah, that's just 6 points now.
Well,
I could be wrong on
so
that, but my reading of this is that that's 6 points of chest armor you've got on there.
so yeah, my usual kit is gambeson
Mhm.
I have on, and then the fluted aluminum. And then on my arms, I have even more of these lamellar plates.
Mhm.
So that will cover up the rest of the arms, wraps around. Also have aluminum plate, like just a round plate that goes around.
Mhm.
So sometimes I use that, and then I have even more of these, and I made a skirt out of it. So there's a whole battle skirt that goes with it, and then the gambeson pants, and then I have some aluminum greaves also.
Okay.
So
Very nice.
I really love aluminum because of the weight, and honestly, I use this in SCA also. I know it protects me if it's protecting against rattan swords, because I understand people don't mean to hurt anybody. You know, accidents happen. I've been playing for a long time, and I'm accident prone myself. You know, and a part of it is I feel more secure that I'm not going to get hurt. You know, wearing all this armor.
I like when people have good armor and it looks nice because it adds to the aesthetic of the game, and I think that in of itself is like a soft service that we get because you can't have
Yep.
everybody out there wearing robes, and it just you need the knight in shining armor.
Yeah, like I love SCA. SCA, you know, I play Amtgard way more than I play any other boffer. It does. I like the aesthetics in Amtgard that we have to show the armor that you're wearing,
Mm.
compared to like SCA, where a lot of times your padding and your padding and stuff is under your tunic and under all of your everything you're wearing.
Mhm.
So a lot of them look like they're just kind of wearing a big tunic. You know, like I love that Amtgard that we have all this armor. Some people got helmets and
It's the drip,
and
man.
everything, and out there shiny. You know.
Yeah, it's all about the drip. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, playing the fantasy is half the game, you know?
Talking about the archetypes for a minute, have you got a chance to play either of the new archetypes?
Oh yeah. And I love it.
Awesome. I want to talk about Guardian first. So Guardian, you get that imbued shield, you get that martyr twice per life, recharge times 3. Talk to me about martyr. What are you doing?
So, Martyr has been a game changer for the front line. So, before, as a standard paladin, I'm on the front line, I would use that pro mage on myself,
Mhm.
and then I can kind of deal with stuff. Now, my warrior has Shake It Off.
Right.
They're out in 10 seconds. And then I have martyrs. I can basically I can get them out of it. And then it's like I have a shake it off for them, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm stuck in it for 10 seconds. So it's this synergy of shake it offs, you can say,
Mhm.
that the front line gets to sustain itself a lot more. And like I'm
Yeah.
loving martyr.
And you can dodge so many states with that imbued shield. You're almost always ready to take the state. It feels like
Yep.
it's
So
really
it's been amazing because out of all of your there's no frontline fighting class that has a release. So what happens a ton of times in the frontline is people like you, like wizards, y'all are doing your job. Y'all are trying to CC the front line to get us to stop, right?
Mhm.
Stop moving forward, stop whatever we're trying to do. And what that means is someone from the midline or someone from the back line needs to get up here, get in this terrible, dangerous situation, and hopefully get off a release, right? So Martyr allows me to still be in the front line, have all my armor, and then basically give out a release. And it's been amazing. It's been great, especially like in those situations where things break down, everyone's scrambling, and we have somebody who's important, like our healer or our wizard or whoever that's doing a lot of CC. That person gets shut down immediately. Martyr, they're released. They can go do what they need to do. It's been amazing. It's been a game changer.
I can really see that doing a lot of work on that front line. Being able to get someone out of that is just, it's crazy strong, honestly. It makes Shake It
Honestly,
Off so strong. You've got it.
yeah, like it's funny because Paladin started off extremely strong, and then when it got released to everybody, they had to nerf it, and then Paladin has been increasing again and again.
The power creep of
It's
Paladin.
yeah, like I can see it in another 3 years, 4 years from now. Like everyone's mad at Paladin the same way how we're mad at Druid, because like honestly, Paladin has been getting, like, especially with the whole archetype adding,
Mhm.
it's just been great. We've just been feasting. We've been we've been getting everything we want as paladins. It's been amazing.
So cool. I also feel like you could, like, it's very situational, but you could almost use the martyr as like a soft counterspell. Like if you had a handy person frozen next to, and this is extremely situational, but if you had like a frozen warrior next to you and they shook it off or whatever, and you're like, all right, whatever, you're getting out of it on your own, and someone starts casting down at you, you can be like, oh, I'm just gonna
Hmm.
borrow that frozen state for 10 seconds to dodge whatever this bad spell was gonna be. Like,
You say that's extremely situational, but that has happened.
you pulled it off. My terrible
So,
hypothetical.
well, so here's the thing, right?
Mhm.
On the front line, if that person is casting, say the wizard is casting,
Yeah,
they're on a roll, right?
yeah.
Hey, I finally got that warrior. I'm about to icy blast that paladin. They're going down the proverbial line, trying to stop all the frontline fighters, right? So they hit the warrior first. They want to hit me next.
Yeah.
They're almost done casting. I use martyr.
And now the warrior's chasing down that poor wizard, and you
Exactly.
got a 30, a 10 instead of a 30. Like, that doesn't feel so situational anymore when you put it like that. That seems like something probable to happen.
Yeah.
I love
Especially when ice balls start getting thrown around. It's
that.
it's for real.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay. Let's shift gears and talk about Inquisitor now, because we've already touched on it a little bit. Gaining Sacred Blades once per life is an EX enchantment, so you can even wear it with your Pro Mage. And then you lose Greater Resurrect and Awe, which that's a bummer. I think that, hang on, that might have actually changed today.
Today.
No, they like
Jeez.
earlier today they dropped a, I've got this bookmarked. They just dropped 8.6.4 dot something. And if I look at Paladin, yes, Inquisitor
See,
has
this is
been
why I'm
changed to
glad they
no longer lose
updated
Awe.
hitting someone with a sword.
You get to keep Awe. So for those, so
Wow.
this video isn't coming out until August, but today is June 3rd. So there's a bit of a delay on getting these out. So yeah, if you're playing Inquisitor Paladin, unless they change it again before this comes out, which is entirely plausible, but at time of recording, today they changed Inquisitor so that you get to keep your Oz now. You only lose Greater Resurrect. Talk to us about
What?
this new amazing archetype with Sacred Blades, which we'll read current Sacred Blades just in case they change that too. Sacred
My
Blades
goodness.
is the bear's wielded weapons are affected as per Harden. Their wielded melee weapons ignore magic armor and resistances that prevent wounds. So it gets around blessing against wounds. It gets around lycanthropy. It gets around all the magic armor. All right, with all of that information now, talk to us about.
So one, wow, Paladin's just out here feasting. They just piling more on our plate. So I would have said the biggest drawback of Sacred Blade is the fact that I don't have. But now, I guess we just get everything we ever wanted in this world.
Man, Paladin
So,
just gets all of the candy today. I used to say that Druid deserves less, but it might not be Paladin.
wow. So Inquisitor. I love that. I love that archetype because I am putting it on my polearm, and my job is less about resurrecting. Yes, I have a heal, great. You know, I'm kind of right behind the warriors and those people in the front line. But my job more with Sacred Blade is more about getting those little stabs on magic armor, right? There's a lot of people who magically become frontline fighters, right?
Right.
You get your light hand, you get your druids, you get people up here who magically become frontline fighters. You get people who magically feel more comfortable, and that Sacred Blade has completely changed the game on that. If you, I am telling you this now, if you are a druid, you have magic armor, you think that you want to be a frontline fighter, I highly recommend that you think again. If there is a paladin, just change all of those plans. Go flank somewhere else or change your list. I feel that Sacred Blade, once people start understanding it more and start using it more, there's going to be a lot of changes going on. Let's put it that way. A lot of changes in the front line and the dynamic of what we are doing. I losing greater res. I love greater res. It's not going to kill me that it is gone, right?
You lose a
Um,
little support to gain a lot.
exactly, yeah. And then now have you more offense with all, because I was about to say the hard part of
Right.
having Sacred Blade is the fact that they now want me to keep off of that front line, and they will use, whatever verbals they can, and my only counter to verbals is my verbal all. Heck, now I got all and Sacred Blade, so anyone that wants to run up and try to dispel or whatever real quick, they out.
Get wrecked. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, thank you for talking about the archetypes. I want to roll over and talk about some Paragon type questions. The first thing, what is something that a Paladin player can really do to stand out to the Paragon?
Paladin is not warrior. Warrior gets to not a good paladin works with inside of a team. The Paragon Paladin uplifts and truly sustains and supports that whole front line, that whole team. A the big separation between a good paladin and a good healer is, sorry, I'm losing my, let me try to get my train of thought on this one. So with a paladin, a good paladin is inside the team, right? They're there, they're working with it. A great paladin, a Paragon Paladin, is a person that is really uplifting how that whole team be almost unkillable and one of the biggest nuisances for the other team's front line. The point of Paladin to me is that you are you are one of the most important support. Yes, you don't have as much heal and res and all this as a healer. Yes, you don't have as many verbals as some other classes. Yes, you don't have as much, but your ability to heal and fight and have the equipment you need and be in that front line and still have enough armor that you're a threat in general. You're just a threat in general that people don't want to come near you.
Right.
That people have to fear the fact that you have a sword and a board, regardless of that you have a sword and board, that you have armor, that you have your group in front of you, right? So what really separates a good paladin is the fact that they are trying to be a paladin and not trying to be some other class, right? They're
Okay.
trying to be a good paladin and healing and supporting your warrior. They're not trying to replace the warrior's job, right? They're healing, they're supporting, they're allowing other teammates to do what they need to do and helping them. And I'm not trying to be that barbarian and do what the barbarian needs to do, right? I'm not trying to take the scout's job and being that adaptive over here. I'm not trying to take I'm not trying to take the healer's job and try to heal and sustain the whole team. My job, I have a role, and my role is to make other people better.
Okay. What advice would you give someone who's starting out as a level 1 paladin?
Mm, I haven't been a level 1 paladin since.
It's a
I
hard
gotta go
question, I
look at what
know.
do you even get.
At level 1, they just get immune to death in command. They don't get anything.
So, my advice as a level 1 paladin is get in the front line, be up there, and allow yourself to learn what happens up here, right? A lot of times, a lot of people who play Amtgard, they kind of get themselves stuck in certain roles. And there's certain roles kind of have different lines that they're fighting in, right? So like as a person that wants to use a bow, they're usually not they're not in the front line. They're not fully studying and understanding these nuances and these little dynamics that happen in the front line.
Mhm.
Because if they like using a bow, they're usually further back. And that's a whole different how the game is played, right?
Mhm.
So as a level 1 paladin, I would say, try to make some gambeson, just get up there in the front line and just start to learn the dynamics of what the front line even is, right? Learn the dynamics of where you need to be, the fact that, what are threats, right? Like, whatever happens, like understanding, I mean, because this happens in video games. Like, I play Marvel Rivals all the time. I used to play Overwatch all the time. There's people who fight in the front line and have no clue what is behind them at all. They
Mm.
never even thought about what's happening back there, right? So I would say to a level 1 paladin, just get up there, be up there, understand what that role of being a front and understand what the threats are, how to deal with it, who who are the targets, and just honestly get used to the fact that there's a lot of chaos up here, right? There's a lot of shouting and hits coming out of nowhere, and you're up in the front, and there's one person trying to swing at you, but really your real threat is this arrow that's in this pocket.
Mm.
But in really understanding how to work with your buddies next to you, it's a little harder at park level as a level 1 paladin because you may not have, you may have 5-on-5, so it makes it a little harder to learn some of these positions, but just being up there, getting used to that chaos, getting used to IDing all these weird threats around, that's honestly the most important thing.
Can you give me the elevator pitch?
Do you like being a combat healer? If you like being a combat healer, if you like being frontline and helping people, you will love Paladin. If you like the idea of being a warrior or a barbarian, but you don't like having to do all of the fighting, you probably want to play Paladin.
What advice would you give somebody who's a level 6 paladin and they really want to get to the Paragon level? How can they go from just being a level 6 paladin to that level?
Learn how to command. As a paladin, I feel like I feel like one of your main goals as a paladin is commanding and sustaining so much of the front line. So I know that when I was playing warrior, when I was playing barbarian, I'm up in the front. I have so much to deal with, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm the main one trying to block everything and trying to fight. I need someone behind me chirping in my ear to tell me what's happening, right? To left, right. I'm here to heal. I'm here to do this. To become Paragon Paladin, in my opinion, is to really help, not just help like magically, help heal wise, but to help that front line understand and hold together. Uh, so like my job as a paladin, so much of the time isn't to take someone's job. I want the warrior to be the warrior, but when they're down,
Mhm.
I want them to know that I am your support. I can heal you, I can res you, or when I can't do that, I'm here to replace you and waiting for you to come back and come back stronger and come back better, right? Like I feel like that's a huge part of being a good paladin, is to not try to take other people's job, but to uplift and help those people do better in their.
Yeah. Okay. Have you ever taken on an apprentice?
I have not. I'm a pretty busy dude. Like I foster dogs. I have a lot. And even though I've been a very long time, my time is weirdly sporadic about like events and stuff like that. So I actually haven't really taken anybody on because I always kind of felt like I want to end up letting them down because my weird scheduling.
I understand that. Okay. Last three questions, and then I'll turn you loose for the rest of the evening. Okay. So, what is your next Amtgard goal? What are you working on now?
Right now, I am working on understanding more of that midline fighting. So I don't necessarily look at what class I'm playing for things. I look at more about roles of playing things. So currently, I'm working on. I just bought a crossbow. I just built a new stock on it. I am about to get some bolts and everything, and I'm going to start really, really learning what goes on in that midline. Like, what do scouts do? What are scouts kind of doing in that middle area? I'm not all the way far in the back and using a bow, and I'm not doing that. Like, I want to see what's going on in the middle. I've done frontline fighting for years. I've done all the stuff in the back and just being a res bot as a healer and stuff like that. But I guess I didn't really learn much about like what's the assassins really doing in this mid area? What's scout doing? What's bard really doing in this mid area?
Okay.
So that's my next goal.
That sounds awesome. When you are at those sporadic events that you're there for, is it okay for people to come up and just ask you questions about Paladin?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm super open for any type of questions. This is the stuff I love talking about all day long.
Do you have any final advice before we end the show?
If you love Amtgard, I highly, highly recommend you go out and also play other buffers. I love playing Amtgard. Amtgard is my main buffer, but in order for me to learn to love Amtgard more, I had to go out and play Bell. I had to go out and play Dag. I had to start off playing HFS to start understanding Amtgard and why I love Amtgard. I had to go out and do SCA. The more that you diversify how you're fighting, doing boxing, doing MMA, doing martial arts, by diversifying what you're learning in combat will help you out better in Amtgard. So just go to one bell practice. Go to one bell event. I know it's not the magic and all that to it like Amtgard, but going to a bell event helped me to understand more about what being a frontline fighter is, how to deal with stress, how to deal with all this chaos. Then I went back to then I came to Amtgard and it worked out so much better. So my big advice is try out other stuff, and I guarantee you it's going to help you in your enjoyment in Amtgard.
Okay. Well, a special thank you to Coltrane for coming on the show tonight. It's been a delight talking about Paladin with you. To you, the viewer, if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, please subscribe for more battle gaming content. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. We always love answering all the questions we get here on the channel, so please leave those down there. And I will see you in the next video.